By the time I was old enough to really be into video games, the classic 25-cent hole-in-the-wall video arcade was mostly extinct in the United States. There was a lot of action going on with Street Fighter 2 that I remember vividly, and my dad would take me to work a lot of the times. He ran a salon, and next door was a barber shop, and in the barber shop there was I don't know what machine it was. It was like some sort of Sega arcade game where there was a motorbike that you could sit on, and you'd turn the handlebars, and it would turn the handlebars in the game. And I'd sit on that thing all day pretty much and pretend I was playing and watch the on-screen demo. But I never actually had any quarters to play it with. Oh, in '97 I think the place opened. There was a skating rink that opened in my area. It's closed now, sadly, but actually the skating rink opened up, and it had all these old arcade machines in it, like it was, sitting there since, like the place opened in '83 or something. And the thing about it was, I didn't think of it that way then. I didn't think of it as old arcade machines. I just thought of it as, oh, they have some arcade games. Specifically, the classic stuff they had Pac-Man. They had a standalone Galaga. They had they had pole position, and it was interesting. I think they had Rally X too, so it was nice to get some exposure to those games, sort of in their original context, in an actual, sort of dark, concrete floored place where music's blasting and they're serving greasy pizza and flat tasting sodas. Fun memories of, as well as actually skating. Yeah, I would have never heard of Pac-Man until years later, if not for my exposure to it there. It's a pretty unlikely spot for me to run into it. They also had the arcade game Violence Fight by Taito, the company that made Space Invaders. I just love the name of that, Violence Fight. I think that was late '80s, if not in the '90s, when that game came out. Arcade machines, I remember, what's funny, when I was growing up, this Pac-Man was everywhere. Every pizza place still had a Miss Pac-Man machine in it from back in the day, but I could not find the original Pac-Man anywhere. I could only find Miss Pac-Man out in the wild, and I know a couple places where I could still find an original Miss Pac-Man machine. Now you see in a lot of laundromats, you see lots of newer arcade games. I'm not really into those newer arcade games. It's sort of funny how you'd expect like the performance and the graphics and everything to be upgraded, but sort of the concept of those old games, the sort of style of gameplay sort of died out, and that kind of surprises me, because in a world where people are playing lots of modern games on their phones that are really sort of simple style like that, you'd think that sort of gameplay, even with modern graphics and everything, those simple sort of concepts would be able to do well in an arcade machine. At any laundromat, I could find a very common, it's a machine that bundles Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. And I always, I know Miss Pac-Man is technically better than Pac-Man in every way, but I'm all about the original Pac-Man myself. And there's a code you could enter in to twist the joystick around in a certain way to unlock the original Pac-Man, but I'm just like, why don't they just have the original Pac-Man as an option? Because I'd play it a lot more if they had that available. I'm into Galaga. I could play they're like in the arcade joystick, the version of Galaga you could get at home, it's almost perfect. But really, I can't play unless I could really lean in on the arcade and jam on the fire button. I have a great time doing that. But recently I was driving through town I usually don't go to, and I saw a Pac-Man machine in a laundromat right up at the front, and I stopped right there and I went in that laundromat and played that, and I was like, yes, I'm finally playing Pac-Man, on a real machine. And for some reason that version of Pac-Man played twice, if not 3 times as fast as any arcade version of Pac-Man I've ever played. Even the original Japanese Puckman MAME ROM, that's like the original board, it was much easier. I don't know why that game played so fast, and on the particular machine, because people are abusing it so much, the controls didn't respond well at all. And I was actually baffled, like, did the original one play this fast? And I had to do some research. Apparently it played just like the Puckman ROM on MAME, or if the version you play in the on the arcade joystick. So I found that very strange. And actually, now that I'm remembering it, I did years and years ago. My parents took me to an expo at the Liberty Science Center in New York, New Jersey, I believe. They had a bunch of old arcade machines you could play for free. You know, you just hit the start button and it would just start playing. These were the original machines. I got to play. Mainly, I wanted to play Pac-Man. I was like obsessed with Pac-Man when I was little. And I remember playing. That's the only time I've ever played Pac-Man on an original arcade cabinet, and that was a huge blast. And it's kind of surprising that, you know, I know the idea, the technology is advanced so much that it's kind of surprising that you're not able to, you know, sort of shrink down the size of the arcade cabinet. You don't need this big, huge, hulking console to play arcade games in a location anymore. And I think that's part of the reason why you don't see them as many places anymore, where a huge cabinet like the Galaga and Miss Pac-Man cabinets, or the most modern cabinets that aren't, you know, have something like a motorcycle or something you can set on, or like a light gun shooting gallery thing. Most of those, you don't need that much space for it. You could really make the machine a lot smaller and thinner, and you could I don't know, I just see a space for sort of a renaissance of, you know, grabbing people's quarters on the way out of a door, sort of like with a gumball machine, that people aren't taking advantage of. Recently, I went to Dave & Buster's. They have a Nintendo arcade machine that packs in Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong Jr. And I suck at all three of those games. When I play those games on that machine at Dave & Buster's, it's kind of like paying, like, my, you know, bowing at the altar. It's not something I enjoy it, but it's like, it's so hard. I'm no good at any of those games, and I have all the credits I need to just sit there and try to get better at it, but especially I guess I'm just too young to, or, you know, don't have the experience with those games. Donkey Kong, especially growing up with Super Mario Land and Super Mario Brothers, you play Donkey Kong like you're playing Mario Brothers, you're going to die in an instant. Like compared to Super Mario Brothers, every little thing kills Mario and Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Jr., I'm not only not good at, but I actually don't like that game that much at all. I'm no good at that. I've never once beaten the first level of Donkey Kong Jr. on an actual arcade cabinet. And Mario Brothers, I could play the Game Boy Advance version of Mario Brothers that are in almost every Mario game, like Super Mario Advance 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, all included a version of Mario Brothers. And that game, that I could play. When I played it in the arcade, totally different. Like in the arcade, I guess because they're underwater, they're in pipes, and the floor is slippery. Mario and Luigi, they have a long slip when you change directions, and it makes it really hard to control them. And I've never had the patience to sit there and get good enough to get used to that. And plus, you expect to be able to jump on turtles and stuff, and you know, it's a lot harder because it's designed to suck your money. As for, you know what, one thing I'm surprised, Nintendo, please put more of your arcade games in your cabinets. Make Clue Clue Land. I'd love to play that in a real arcade cabinet. Clue Clue Land, Excite Bike. You know, there are lots of old Nintendo games NES games that would go great in a modern cabinet that really haven't been available since maybe the Play Choice series or the old Versus games. Even like, you know, an arcade, bring back Super Mario Bros. Versus. You'd make the cabinet a reasonable size so that any store owner will want to put it next to their gumball machines. You'll make a killing. As for one thing I don't like so much about the new versions of those older machines is that they let you insert coins to, you know, when you get a game over, you can insert coins to continue, which a lot of the original versions didn't have at all. And really, unfortunately, that sort of turns a lot of games into whoever has the high score. You can basically pay to have the high score on that machine, which is kind of disappointing. And someday I'd like to go on a pilgrimage to one of those sort of museum arcades they have around where you could play our games on the original cabinets. There's so many games I still haven't played it even on MAME, like Robotron, Centipede. I played the Apple II version of Centipede. I've never played it in an actual cabinet. Millipede, a whole lot of games I still haven't played. on an arcade that I ought to have. Maybe someday I'll even get myself a MAME cabinet when I have entirely too much money. So that's my arcade experience. Thank you very much for watching.